Children's Rights Council of Cleveland. We're child support, child custody advocates. We're live the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. on kazradio.org, or you can listen on demand anytime by logging on to kazradio.org.
You're listening to... I quit.
We have 2 intros.
You're listening to Children's Rights Council Radio. We're coming to you from the studios of kazradio.org. Your hostess with the mostest is the director of Children's Rights Council, Marianne Dybeck. I'm Neil Grossman. Our in-studio... Oh, wait, I'm supposed to do a disclaimer first. I'm sorry, I didn't read the notes.
That's why you have a note.
Notes. Disclaimer, we are not attorneys. We don't pretend to be attorneys.
Wait a second, I'm an attorney.
Well,
No,
we'll get
this
to
is
that.
her and I.
Oh, okay, good.
You can get sued anytime you want. I can't
Don't
pretend.
disclaim me yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
the glory of our show is we're not attorneys, but we have an attorney
I
with
thought
us in the
There you
studio.
go.
I thought I was
know, I'm
supposed
sorry,
to
I
be.
cut
Now
you
you
off. Go
stepped
back
all
to the
over me.
notes.
Oh my God, this is like doing a real show. Disclaimer. Stop it. We are not attorneys. We are only giving you our opinions. I'm speaking for Marianne and myself. Stephen Slive, who is our in-studio guest, is an attorney. Why do they say they practice? Because I don't want to hire somebody who's practicing on me. I want somebody that does it for a
practice
living.
too.
Exactly.
But anyway, could you tell us what areas do you specialize in besides domestic? Is that all?
Well, I specialize in family law, domestic, which has everything from divorce to custody to child support to visitation.
Do you also practice in juvenile court?
I practice a lot in juvenile court.
I'm sorry.
What?
Well, half the children.
him.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. But half the
Okay,
children that are
domestic
born
court.
now
Are born out of wedlock, right.
Out of wedlock,
Right, yeah.
So a lot of juvenile court stuff.
Okay, and then do you do probate or anything?
I do other areas. Slive & Slive is a general practice law firm. We do a fair amount of bankruptcy. I know we want to talk a little bit about bankruptcy today, and I do a lot of personal injury. Matter of
Who's
fact,
the
I
other
got
Slive?
the other Slive is Harriet Slive, my wife.
Okay.
Hi, Harriet. I haven't seen you in a while. Okay, what's next on our list?
You.
Okay, introduce
It
me.
says
and
you,
I'm
and
gonna
then
do
you're
my
supposed to give
updates.
it-
Oh, my updates. This is great.
Oh
we
my God.
had a case this week that I'm just so happy about.
Can I ask a personal question before you
Right
get
now,
into it?
before I get into the case,
Yeah. Did you get paid?
that we're not going to answer that.
Well, the reason
Okay.
why I was asking is because I need to borrow some money.
I don't have any.
Okay, go.
Okay, one of our magistrates, and I don't want to say the name because I didn't clear this with anybody before I said I wanted to discuss it on the radio, but one of the magistrates at juvenile court actually apologized to one of our fathers who was going through a custody battle, and after years of the mother playing games, he finally obtained custody. He doesn't have physical custody, but that's another story. The magistrate did grant him custody, and his battle was quite long, and I was just so tickled to hear that a magistrate had apologized to a father for all the trauma he's gone through in this situation, because in juvenile court we do have a lot of problems with the mothers not acting. Their behavior gets out of control, and the fathers suffer a lot. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Oaks Family Care Center affiliates with us, and starting September 9th, they're going to have 3 classes. One is the legal clinic on September 9th. Richard Barbera is going to be our attorney for the legal clinic. If you want information on that, you can call our offices at
216-227-9111.
Right, and that's the Office of the Children's Rights Council. There's also going to be next Wednesday's the legal clinic, and then 2 Wednesdays after that are other clinics relating to finances and other issues that you have while you're going through divorce. So again, this is a really good program. Give our offices a call. And they're all free too, so all the
Can I
better.
sign up then?
Anybody can sign up. I'm going to attend every single one of those courses. And now we're going to turn it over to Mr. Stephen Slive, who's our attorney expert for the night, and we decided kind of together that we were going to talk about the issues of unemployment and child support, which is a really big deal nowadays with the economy the way it is.
Oh, absolutely.
So the floor is yours.
Okay, the floor and the mic are mine. Well, what do we have? Close to 10% unemployment in this country right now. So we have a lot of people who have child support orders that they can't afford. And
Can I interrupt you for
Sure.
1 second? If you'd like to get in with a question for Stephen tonight, you can call 1-646-478-4905, or you can get in on Blog Talk Radio, and you can blog us in this studio.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No problem. And unemployment it has 2 effects. One is certainly the person that doesn't have the job, doesn't have the money to pay his support. And then the person that's receiving child support isn't going to be receiving the same amount of child support. So unemployment hurts both sides of the equation and ultimately hurts the children. Lots of people will go to the child support agency if they're laid off, and they'll ask for a modification. And the child support agency won't necessarily give a person a modification based on unemployment compensation. They don't always have consistent guidelines. Sometimes people are told that they need to be unemployed for 6 months before child support is going to be diminished.
Can I interject here?
Sure.
Just because this is a big topic lately, I have had conversations with administration at CISA who says on occasion, especially with the economy the way it is, that they are contemplating not making the payors wait the 6 months to modify. Do you have anything to...
Yeah, well, it goes on a it seems to go on a case-by-case basis, although they have a 6-month rule.
And
the rule is arbitrary.
Right. The point that you just made is very, very important because I find that's true. It's a case-by-case analysis.
Right. The courts, however, are more realistic. If you file a motion in court, the court's going to say, you're unemployed, we're changing your child support.
Is there a 6-month wait on that?
No 6-month wait in court.
Say the payor becomes unemployed and a week later he files a motion through court. Can you tell us how that would work?
Yes. Well, if the motion is filed in domestic relations court, you're going to get a court hearing, your first hearing, in 4 to 6 weeks. They're pretty prompt. And then of course the payee has the right to show that you're voluntarily underemployed. I mean, some people will resign, or some people are unemployed due to their own voluntary actions. So the other side can try to show that you're voluntarily unemployed, or that you can go out and get other work. But assuming that you can't, the court is going to say, let's change child support. If it's not in 5 weeks, it's going to be in 8 or 10 weeks.
So would it be retroactive to the day of the hearing or to the date that the motion was filed?
Always retroactive to the date that the motion was filed. Now, the other problem is juvenile court. Juvenile court right now is 6 months behind on the first time that a child support motion is going to be heard by a magistrate.
Really?
6 months.
But is it not retroactive back to the date that it's filed?
It's retroactive.
Okay.
But you're under a court order to pay a higher amount.
Right. It's still causing issues if you have a smaller paycheck and they're still taking the same amount out for the 6 months.
Exactly. Now, they will attach your unemployment compensation.
Yes.
And they will take up to 55% of your unemployment compensation for your child support order. So you're not going to get relief for up to at least 6 months in juvenile court, because the juvenile court now doesn't have sufficient magistrates in their support department.
What is the federal guidelines say about getting that reduction for being unemployed?
It's not clear. The federal guidelines simply have the maximum that can be taken out of your paycheck, which is 55%. Now, there is legislation that was just introduced in Ohio to say that courts shall consider a person on unemployment compensation unemployed at no fault. So we're going to have in Ohio, there's Ohio legislation pending that says that courts and child support agencies should look at unemployment compensation as the person's income and not attach fault to the person being unemployed.
Okay, I'm not trying to create a problem here, but I'm asking, how can Ohio do that if child support is governed by the federal government?
Well, the federal government oversees the Ohio child support formulas, statutes, and enforcement, but they're not there telling them what to do every step of the way.
Okay.
Isn't it true that each individual state can come up with their own support guidelines and not have to answer to the federal government to that?
As a matter of fact, Ohio's child support guidelines haven't been changed for over 14 years.
Do you think they need to be?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And how?
Well, number one, inflation. There's been tremendous inflation over 14 years. So I think that children need a realistic child support amount. If it hasn't been adjusted for 14 years, and it was correct 14 years ago, then it's
Right.
much lower than it should be.
Now I have
Now-
to step in because it was never correct to begin with.
Right. So that's why I started off with if it was correct.
Okay.
Now, the other thing that Ohio is thinking of doing is simplifying the child support worksheet to make it much easier to navigate. Marianne, you're cracking up.
Because it's 5 pages long
It's
right
5
now.
pages long. It's gotten
Right.
longer now.
Really?
Yeah, it's gotten longer because
With
of
the
medical
cash
support.
medical,
Yeah,
right?
the cash medical support
Right.
orders. So they're thinking now of changing it, taking out lots of things that really don't make a big difference.
You mean like dry cleaning?
Dry cleaning, right, right. Well, I know for you, there's a lot of dry cleaning.
When I had to fill that out, which of course it doesn't pertain to me, but to get the divorce, you have to fill it out. I was dying.
Is that on the child support sheet? I
Oh,
didn't
Well,
see that.
it's
It
on the
was when I did it.
Yeah, well, I think you're thinking of the pretrial statement.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yes,
thinking, yeah.
yes, it has
Some of
cigarettes. You're all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And most of those things aren't looked at by the court. The court really looks at your income, your gross income. It looks at perhaps your housing expense. It looks at your credit cards. Your basic debt picture.
Excuse me, is this when you're saying they take all that into consideration? Do they take that into consideration before they run the guidelines?
No.
Right.
No,
This
the
is just,
guidelines, right. The guidelines, really, the court sticks to the guidelines unless there is some extraordinary expense that isn't brought upon by the person. I mean,
So-
if you live a crazy lifestyle and you got big debt and you're driving a big car and you got a big house, well, tough luck. You're paying child support guidelines.
okay, there are. Correct me if I'm wrong, but are there 17 deviations still to the?
There could very well be. I
But-
haven't counted them.
But what you're telling me is the only time they will actually deviate from the standard guidelines is if there are extraordinary expenses.
Something that's out of the control of a person. It's not based on excessive lifestyle. Okay, if you have another child that has significant medical problems, or your child has significant medical problems, or you do, and this is something that's out of your control, and you have big medical expenses, then that would warrant a deviation. Or if you have travel expenses for this child, or if you have special educational expenses. So it's something that is really bona fide that the court is going to say, you know what, this is good that you're spending this money.
How many years have you been trying child support?
Over 30 years.
Now, in your experience in 30 years, how many deviations have you actually seen
Do you feel like you're
become
on trial?
judgmentary?
No, I've gotten accustomed to Mary Ann's way of questioning. So you and I have something in common. We've known her for a long time. She's been cross-examining us for all these years.
Really, how many times do they actually deviate from the child support?
Mostly for transportation expenses.
Okay.
That is about all. Is that the court will deviate. Now, people will deviate. Frequently, like I just had a case where a 16-and-a-half-year-old decided to go live with father up in Massachusetts. So father came to me and said, I don't want child support from mother. Even though he's been paying child support since his divorce in 2004, he said, I don't want support from her. Because if I ask for support from her, she won't agree to the 16-and-a-half or 17-year-old living with me. So we deviated, no support. Why? We put in the reason transportation expenses. So people deviate. The courts don't like to deviate.
That's a really good point to make, because it is true that you can go into court and you can come up with your own child support payments back and forth, whatever. But let's draw you back to the original, what we were talking about, child support and unemployment. So to conclude that, they can either file through CISA, or they can file through court, juvenile court or domestic court, wherever their orders are from. Is there a better way to do it?
Well, the better
or-
way is going to court, because CISA does not seem to recognize unemployment as changed circumstances. And hopefully this new legislation, which could be passed in the next 6 months, will remedy it. But right now, if you go to CISA, chances are you're not going to get a reduction. So you got to go to court to get that
Right.
reduction.
So the legislation that's pending would allow an administrative order to be changed.
Yes.
Great. We have 0 minutes to commercial. Is that what that was?
That was that you're already a minute and 30 into it.
You're not part of the commercial.
Okay, I guess we're going to cut to commercial, huh?
Jonathan from the Children's Rights Council of Cleveland. This is Jonathan from the Children's Rights Council of Cleveland. I support shared parenting from experience. Sometimes divorce is inevitable, but done the right way, more children like myself can be saved the misery of being hit by the shrapnel of their parents' disputes. Kids don't need money to be happy. We don't need a big house or a Mercedes. What we do need is unconditional love from both parents, no matter if we live in the same house or not. We need to feel loved and safe. Yes, all you parents, it's as easy as that. The Children's Rights Council of Cleveland offers many services to parents who are experiencing legal and emotional issues while trying to get shared parenting agreements in place. Some of the services offered are an education understanding of legal processes, including, but not limited to, your rights, responsibilities, and laws that apply to child support and child custody. Motion review. Attorneys are paid directly from our clients to review motions needed for court. The staff at CRC does not recommend that anyone file a motion without an attorney opinion and review of the case. Court companionship. CRC's director or a staff member can accompany you to court to make the experience less stressful to both the client and opposition. Supervised visitation. If the court orders you to do supervised visits, CRC has a facility that fosters parent and child relations, including board games, miscellaneous toys and arts and craft, and finally, all the kids' favorite game, the Wii. We also offer free legal clinics, and of course you already know about our radio show. To reach CRC's office, please call 216-227-9111. See what we can do to help you. Think about what I said, parents. And you lawyers out there, too, who like to drag out these battles, remember the children. This is Jonathan, representing the child's best interest from the Children's Rights Council of Cleveland.
Rights Council Radio here on KAZradio.org. If you'd like to get in to talk to our guest, attorney Stephen Slive, who is out of downtown Cleveland, I believe.
That's correct.
And we'll get you to give out your information here in a minute. You can call 1-646-478-4905, or you can get in on Blog Talk Radio and send Pastor James a nasty message, and he'll respond to you.
Great. Great.
Okay, you wanted to talk about bankruptcy.
Right, the second.
Or can I take a minute and talk about the Rocky River school system?
Oh, why don't you do that, and then we'll go to the bankruptcy.
As you all know, well, Steve, you might not. I have gotten engaged over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, everybody knows I've been getting the phones.
And you're going to pay.
All right, go ahead.
We went to enroll the children in school, and they asked for information on her. They asked for information on me. Well, not real much. They wanted me to sign an affidavit stating that she lived in my home because she hadn't changed her driver's license. None of her information in 3 weeks had changed. And they said,
and you live in Rocky River?
I live in Rocky River. Not only do I own one house in Rocky River, I also have a rental in Rocky River. So I pay a lot of real estate taxes, which is here and there. But they,
right, I was going to mention that.
But they said that...
I'm happy to hear you're current with your real estate taxes.
That's about the only thing I'm current on.
Okay.
But they said I had to sign an affidavit stating that she lived in my home. 2 weeks later, we're supposed to have the information for where the kids go to school. We call and they say, well, you didn't provide us with information. You need to change all your bills. You need to change your driver's license. Well, she happens to have an ex who is very violent, happens to be a skip tracer for a living, and she didn't want to change the address. Their policy was all I had to do was come in and sign an affidavit. I cannot get the school system to return a phone call to me to explain to me why this all went on. And then when they finally do enroll the children, they tell us what classroom they're in and then held them out of school for 2 days.
Okay, so point being here, if you're thinking about getting divorced, don't.
No, the point being that if you're going to deal with a school system and you're going to bring somebody else into your home, make sure that you get it into writing what they want from you. Because if it,
yeah, that's with everything, and especially dealing with child support. I mean, we tell everybody, you go in, get a copy of everything, get everything in writing.
But if you all want some entertainment, be at the Rocky River School Board meeting on September 8th, because you're going to see fireworks.
I would go, but that's the night of the legal clinic, so
Sorry,
gotta
I
pass.
won't be there.
Yeah.
I'll be causing havoc
Well,
somewhere
you know,
else.
school systems do have legitimate concerns, and maybe not in your case, but school systems are concerned that children are enrolled in their schools that shouldn't be enrolled.
Right,
You
they're
have
really
many
cracking
kids
down on
that-
that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I even offered their attorney, who I'm going to refrain from blasting on the air
Right,
Thank right. you.
yet, to go to the house at any time, day or night,
Right.
knock on the door, see if they're there.
Right, right,
Help yourself. I don't care.
right,
We're not hiding anything. We were just trying to keep the children safe.
right. Now, is there a
Yes.
protection order in place that stops this
yeah.
father from seeing the children?
Yes, but when you're a skip tracer,
Yeah.
you do the
A
best.
civil protection order, because folks should know that we have very good laws in Ohio for civil protection orders.
Yes.
And if there's been domestic violence, then a lawyer or yourself, but it's difficult to do this yourself, can
Correct.
file for a civil protection order, and that will remedy a situation. I have cases where fathers, can contact the mother of their children, their former spouse, their children. So if there's domestic violence and those kinds of problems, the police will enforce those orders. So in your case, the school system wanted proof that your fiance lives in Rocky River. And yes, school systems will require an updated driver's license.
See,
so
that's the
you're in
first I heard of it, but I that would make sense.
yeah, they
Right.
want some
Right.
proof. Or they ask for utility bills or a
Right.
lease. Now, you could, for instance, write her a lease.
Right, somebody else was
Saying
telling
her,
me that.
matter of
too.
fact, you could put
Right.
some interesting things in that lease, which we won't talk about on the air right now. But if you had a lease, then theoretically she would be legally living with you. And
And
most
that-
school systems accept a lease as proof.
And here, let me give you the neat thing that then happens when you're in Rocky River, and the school system would have that, and the city would find out. Then you have to go get a rental permit.
That's true.
And then they have to come in and
That's
inspect
true.
your house.
That's true. You
Got
can't
something to
have
hide?
a valid lease unless you're a registered landlord.
But
That's
anyway, let's get back to bankruptcy, because a
Yes.
lot of people going through divorce situations or
Yes.
separations.
I don't know anything about bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Nor do I. Okay, but
There's
anyway.
a lot of bankruptcy now.
Yeah,
By the way,
the
my name is
economy's-
Steve Slive, and I'll put my pitch in for my phone number. It's 216.
He usually does that.
Well, I don't know it, so he's
Oh,
going to have to
I
give
know
it.
it.
It's
Can
a
I
really
do it?
easy number. Go ahead. 216.
216-566-1111. Offices of Stephen Slive and Harriet Slive.
You got it.
Right.
And Amy Keating, my associate. Hello,
Oh,
Amy.
is Amy still there?
Amy's still there. She's
Hi,
getting
Marianne,
ready for
it's
her.
Amy.
She's getting ready to get married. Yep.
It's a
yep.
private joke.
Yeah. And if you want to see more about us, just go to slivelaw.com, www.slivelaw.com, or just type in my name on Google, and you'll see our great website.
Right, which I did a couple weeks ago. Pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Okay,
Well, let's talk about bankruptcy.
bankruptcy.
Okay, I'm going to throw something at you. I was sitting in the courtroom last week.
Okay.
I was helping on a case, and don't ask me why we were ordered to sit in the courtroom, why two other attorneys were banging out a settlement between their clients. One of the things they were talking about was, well, the likelihood is that you're not going to be able to save your house because you're going to have to file bankruptcy as soon as the divorce is done. And then he's going to file bankruptcy, and then he's going to have to remodify the loan, and then it's going to be a whole catch-22. What you both need to do is file bankruptcy, then get your divorce. The reason why I'm throwing that out is because I really thought that it was probably should be done in reverse, because then she could probably save the house. If they both file bankruptcy together, they're probably not going to have enough to write off to save the house.
Did you follow all that? Because that one.
Yeah, well, to some extent. But the real issue, when people get divorced, they have their two incomes, and the two incomes now are paying for two separate households instead of one household. So hypothetically, husband and wife supporting, one household, pooling the money together. Now, husband and wife are getting divorced. Now, you got your household, you have your household.
Why does everybody do that to us?
Do what?
You
Point
look
to us like
you
we're
look like
married.
a hypothetical couple.
I know they always do that. Okay.
Okay, so
You
frequently,
be quiet over there.
frequently. Now, Now, people want to know, what are the two kinds of bankruptcies? There's Chapter 7s and Chapter 13s. Now, Chapter 7s is the liquidation. It's the clean slate. That's what most people will use. Chapter 13 is when you have somebody that's working, so you got to be a wage earner, and you want to save your house. So with a Chapter 13, you can force a bank, a mortgage company, to take your mortgage arrearages in payments over 5 years. If you can show that you can afford to make your current payment and 1/60th of your mortgage arrearage. You can force a bank right up to the day of the sheriff's sale to reinstate your mortgage and take your arrearages over a 5-year period. Now, the bankruptcies, here's the catch-22. A bankruptcy is going to cost anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 to do it. So people always say, when I used to be the free clinics attorney, people used to say, how can I go bankrupt if I don't have the money to hire an attorney? Right. So yes, I mean, most attorneys will require, they work with their clients. With the Chapter 13, they take $1,000 and the rest comes out of the plan. But for instance, a husband and wife can file a bankruptcy with still having $42,000 of equity in their home. So you can have equity in your home and still file your bankruptcy. So it's $21,000 per person equity in a home. Each party is allowed to have a car with $3,500 of equity in their car. And then there's other exemptions. But bankruptcy is an important tool if you're trying to save your home, trying to avoid a sheriff's sale, or if you need that clean slate. And a lot of people, one of the reasons a lot of people get divorced is they get into financial trouble. So certainly you're correct. Sometimes you file the bankruptcy before the divorce, clean out the debt, and then it's a lot easier for people to say, okay, what kind of child support are we going to pay? What kind of spousal support are we going to pay? So that's why people typically will want to do it ahead of time.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So bankruptcy is a good option. Fortunately, with people that don't get into debt problems, they don't need that.
Okay, we have 3 months left for the show. Anything else you'd like to add to what's going on in the child support world these days, or custody?
Well, I can tell you that the Chief Child Support Magistrate from Domestic Relations Court, Serpy Ergen, is leaving her position as a child support magistrate.
Wow.
And she's going to be the motion magistrate for post-decree motions for Judge Carner. So I saw her moving into her new courtroom.
Wow.
And Lawrence Loeb, who used to be Judge Carner's post-decree motion magistrate, is going upstairs to become her trial magistrate.
I heard that through the grapevine, yeah.
Larry's going to work.
Larry's going to work. Oh, Larry, are you listening?
I was kidding, Larry.
Well, Larry had some tough shoes to fill. He filled Barbara Hall's shoes, and she was a wonderful magistrate. But Larry is doing a very good job.
She's not there anymore?
She's not there anymore.
She went across the street, didn't she?
She retired.
I don't know why. I thought she went across. Okay, I stand corrected.
Now, it was just before Valerie Brandenburg, who is Judge O'Malley's magistrate, and she is tremendous. Val is doing a great job.
One more time on your phone number.
Yes, it's 216-566-1111, and it's slivelaw.com.
And before we sign off for tonight, I also wanted to interject into our conversation about domestic court that I'm very ecstatic about our new administrative judge, the Honorable Diane Palos. She's just so wonderful, and things are changing over there.
Absolutely. Doing a great job.
So Neil's telling us we have to cut, so...
Good night.
Good night, everybody.